Hey, welcome everybody to the January 18th Legislative Committee meeting. We'll start with a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Bullock makes the motion. Is there any additions or deletions? Seeing no hands in the air, all those in favor? Carried. Looking for a motion to adopt the minutes of our last meeting. Councillor Lemko makes the motion. All those in favor? Oh, I was supposed to say errors or omissions, but I don't see anybody getting upset, so we're just going to go right through that then. Okay, first up, Dale Lefebvre, Director Lefebvre, sorry.
Thank you, Worship. This correspondence is addressed to yourself. It's regarding the Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Partnership Forced Main Replacement Project. It says, thank you for your application of November 24th, 2021, requesting funding assistance for the Forced Main Replacement Project under the Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Partnership Program. We have reviewed your request for this project and have found that it is eligible for cost share funding. And in bold, it says the town of Vegreville will be notified once your project has been approved for funding. According to your application, the total estimated project costs are $2,850,000 based on the 2019 population of 5,708. We would be eligible to receive 42.52% of funding of all eligible costs, or $1.21 million. Alberta Transportation requires that projects of this magnitude be publicly tendered and delivered by the private sector. Once this project is approved for funding, please forward a summary of the bids and a construction schedule of the selected contractor to this office. The town of Vegreville will be responsible for any applicable goods and service taxes associated with the project. Please submit any updated project estimates to our office to update our records. Further information on the Alberta Municipal Water and Wastewater Partnership is available on the internet at www.transportation.alberta.ca. If you have any questions or concerns, please call me at 403-345-0699. Sincerely, Danette Lassie. So the good news,
thank you.
The good news is that the project does qualify.
Yeah. So we will, like we talked about before, as soon as the STIP, or not STIP, what's the federal grant that we're waiting for to open? ISIP, yeah. So as soon as that opens, we'll apply. How was the last week with our forced sewer main, Dale?
Well, it was confirmed that it was a forced main leak that late afternoon. The following day, we had the contractors out. We were digging. We had the materials on stock. So the actual construction from the repair from the morning we started went for one day and about a quarter to half the next day. And we were wrapped up. So in a day and a half, we were in good shape. The failure in this one was, in 1979 when it was put in. We mentioned before, it was the directional boring. This type of material was a newer technology. And when they bore through. They don't open up in daylight, we call it, and put a pipe in. So when they bore through. The pipe was bored through a seam of limestone, and which is quite aggressive on the side of the pipe. And actually just because we know that pipe, every time it pressures up, it does swell a little bit and come down. Not that you could see that, but that's what it's doing. And it's rubbing on the portion of the limestone that finally failed. So we were able to remove the limestone the next morning with air hammer equipment, put a repair clamp on it. Because the type of crack, we didn't have to cut a pipe out and put in 2 high max couplings. We're able to just repair clamp it, put a zinc anode on so the clamp will last to 40 years. Not that we need it to. And we were on our way, and we finished our compliance reports with Alberta Environment because we reported as soon as we were aware of it, and we finished the compliance report up and sent that in the last day of the repair.
Okay, thank you. Anybody, any questions, Adele, regarding the letter from the government or on the leak out there? Go ahead, Councillor Rudick.
Well, I did have one question. Now I have 2. First question is, how did you realize that there was a leak? Was my first question, I guess. And the second question would be, if we have a change in our population, hopefully with the release of the upcoming census, will that change the amount that we're eligible for?
Yes, the grant is based on population, so it would reflect that. And the first occurrence of the leak was an employee driving through up to the top of the lagoon cells. It was their job to check our lagoons and found doing some snow removal up there actually with the loader, and just found a small wet spot in the snow, which was not common this time of year after a long spell of -38 or 36. So when we checked into it a little further, did some pump cycles and found that we're getting a little higher flow when the pumps are on and obviously lesser flow when the pumps are off. It was pretty much a no-brainer that this is what we have to do.
Okay. Thank you, Dale. Next up, Director Saskew.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a letter to the mayor, Reeve, and councillors. So that'd be the mayor and councillors. So this is from RMA, Rural Municipalities of Alberta. The Board of Directors and staff of the Rural Municipalities of Alberta are pleased to provide the best services to our members. From power to grader blades, pens to fire trucks, tires to fuel, advocacy to insurance, your best interests are at the heart of all programming and activities. External relations and advocacy is your voice to the government. We provide information and advocacy based on resolutions made by you at our semi-annual conventions. We work hard to create and maintain positive relationships with the provincial government. We also participate in governmental committees to ensure rural perspective is always represented. In 2020 to 2021, we worked on 16 resolutions and participated on numerous committees. RMA Insurance continues to provide Alberta local governments and affiliated organizations with an unparalleled program of comprehensive and cost-effective risk management services. Your municipality has access to Risk Pro credits that can be utilized as a risk mitigation tool, which may have a positive impact on your insurance rates. RMA Insurance provided qualified members this year with over 400,000 in Risk Pro credits this year. RMA Trade provides Alberta local governments and affiliated organizations with access to a wide variety of products at competitive prices, while also offering streamlined and convenient system for invoicing and payment. RMA Fuel is your supplier of fuel and lubricants at a discounted prices across Canada. We provide bulk purchasing pricing without the minimum purchase requirements and find the best supplier to suit your needs. Call us for a cost analysis to see how much you could save. In 2021, we procured over $266 million of goods and supplied over 56 million liters of fuel to our members. Members participating in the trade program received an annual patronage rebate reflecting their share of the earnings realized by RMA through the operations of our RMA Trade, RMA Fuel, and RMA Insurance subsidiaries. This year, you received 464 and 74 to the 2020 to the 21 patronage rebate. The success we continue to experience is largely due to the strength and commitment of our membership. We wish to express our sincere thanks for your support of RMA Trade, RMA Insurance, and RMA Fuel. The success of our programs has allowed the RMA to offer trade and fuel programs across the country. We have proudly rebranded these services to the Canoe Procurement Group of Canada. With your ongoing support, we will continue to grow and adapt to changing local government and market circumstances while improving the services and benefits available to our members. If you have any questions or concerns with respect to any of our programs, please check our website, canoeprocurement.ca and rmaalberta.com, or call our main number to be directed to the best person to serve you. Yours truly, Paul McLaughlin, President.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Saskew. Anybody get any questions on the correspondence? Of course, we get our insurance through AUMA or Alberta Municipalities.
Mm-hmm.
What about the fuel deal? Do we just buy it on our own, or are we in a bulk purchasing agreement with anybody?
Yeah, we go through a purchasing as well through Petro-Canada, where the fuel comes from, and then it goes through ARMA.
Okay. Excellent. Anybody else have any questions on the letter? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Director Saskew. Next up, interim CAO Paul Casey.
Thank you, Your Worship. The first item on my list is the Emerging Trends in Municipal Law seminar put on by Brownlee. And they are being held in Calgary on February 10th and Edmonton on February 17th. And if you want to register for those, one of those, there's a live in-person registration and there's also a virtual option. So right now they're still planning in-person, but they say if you register for the in-person or for the in-person one, which is $185 plus GST, and they go to virtual, you'll get the difference back if you go to virtual, which is $85 plus GST. So the difference is $100. So I think if you want to attend these, you probably should let Sandra know and she can get you registered for one of these seminars.
Everybody's clear with that? Let Sandra know and she'll register you. Any other questions on that one? Okay, seeing none. Next up.
Next up is a draft bylaw for a new CAO bylaw. With the appointment of a new CAO coming up, we took a look at the CAO bylaw that was currently in place and did some searching around some other municipalities to see what was in place. And we decided that maybe the council would like to consider a new CAO bylaw, which is more prescriptive as to what you want the CAO to do, because the old bylaw was kind of left a lot of interpretation in places as to what should be done. So this bylaw, has the normal stuff, the definitions, the appointment of the CAO, the delegation of his authority. Then there's a responsibility and authority section, how he's to deal with personnel administration, what conduct he is to have with respect to council and everybody else, how he's to manage administration and personnel, what his responsibilities are with respect to the budget procedures, what his third-party relationship responsibilities are, what his purchasing authority is, how he can how he can deal with emergency expenditures before he has to come to council. That was not in the last bylaw for sure. That he has the authority to seek legal matters and insurance and can enter into contracts and agreements on behalf of the municipality. And his signing authority can be delegated to people for signing agreements, contracts, and other negotiable instruments. He has the authority to delegate that to someone, say like Dale or Megan. He obviously wouldn't want to assign it to somebody like Brenda or Kara, but to some of the senior management. And then a requirement for performance evaluation. And we put a date in here of honor before April 30th, but it's also subject to whatever council and the CAO decide the date that they want it to be. And then that's basically the bylaw. So it's quite a bit longer and quite a bit more prescriptive. So I'm not sure how council feels about that, but we think it's a better bylaw than the bylaw that was in place before.
And the plan is to have all three readings at the next council meeting?
The plan is to have all three readings at the next council meeting and also to appoint Mr. Leggett as the CAO at the next council meeting with an effective date of January 31st.
Okay.
So we will appoint him under the old bylaw, and then we will pass the new bylaw, or we will bring the new bylaw forward for council to have all three readings or wherever they decide to go. But he'll be appointed under the old bylaw because that's the bylaw that currently exists.
Okay. Any comments on the new CAO bylaw? It is go ahead, Councillor Barry, and then Councillor Bullock. Councillor Waugh, did you have your hand up? Go ahead.
Go ahead. Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's a very good improvement. I've read it through very carefully, and I don't see any problems with it other than I'd like to point out, if you just drop somebody, maybe Sandra can, there are some minor typos. I don't know if they've been caught yet, but if you take, there's some spacings between words. like 7.1C, there needs to be a space between the or and the department. And 7.3, there's another one there. 9.4A and 9.4B and 22.1. You'll just find that there's some spaces there that are required. In a couple of cases, it'll make the reading much more clear. The only other question I have, though, is with the bylaw actually being part of the performance appraisal for the CAO, should this not be signed off after the our new CAO is in place, so that it is his signature that's on it to accept that he is part of the bylaw? Or, I mean, I suppose it doesn't really matter. It just seems that we certainly have to have a meeting to ensure that he is aware of the bylaw and what is contained in it. So
he has been presented with this bylaw and has reviewed it already, and he has said he has no issues with it at all.
okay, that's excellent. That's excellent.
Okay, Councillor Bullock.
Actually, I read through it quite in detail as well, and I like what I see in there, and I think that we can work with this very well with him. And just some of the things that Dave covered, I don't need to go over them again. That is it.
Yeah, some of those things that Councillor Barry brought up, but this was in draft, and we will make sure all that's done when it becomes final.
Councillor Warwood, did you have a comment? Did you have your hand up? Okay. Sandra, your hand is in the picture. Are you wanting to get my attention, or? Oh, you got a little wave going on. There you go. Okay. Okay, well, more than anything is what Paul's trying to capture. There's just a little more descriptive in there about his duties and how the performance and what the expectations are. It's just broken down a lot more than what the old one was. So this will come by the Monday's meeting, and we'll be looking to do all three readings. Councillor Rudick.
Sorry, I just, before we bring it forward on Monday, I just wanted to ask about the performance evaluation date being in the bylaw. Is there any thoughts about the timeliness of the way that it works just for our calendar year, or is that inserted just as a placeholder with the April 30th as the timeline?
Yeah, we just put a date in here, but it also says that it's that date or council at the where is it? Yeah, it says, or as such other time as agreed to by council and the CAO. So
That's fine then. Okay.
Yeah.
So as we move forward here with the employment, we're probably going to have an evaluation at the end of the probation period. And then at that time, we'll pick with him overall date that we will be looking at to perform this, the regular CAO evaluation. That's the way I see it happening.
we could, if council wishes, we could actually just change that to say an annual performance review at a date and time that council and CAO agree to, or some wording to that effect, and take out the April 30th date.
Yeah, I think for now, Paul, is probably the best until we, after we get close to the probation period being over. We're definitely going to do, a review anyway where he's at, and then at that time, I think we'll pick a date that we all agree on between council and the CAO.
So it would be best to remove the April 30th date, is what you're saying?
I think for now, yeah.
Yeah, that's no worries.
Is everybody good with that? Okay, excellent. Thank you. Next up,
Just trying
talk of the town.
Yeah, so this is a memorandum that our communications and marketing manager put for the talk of the town. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to ask him to speak to it.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. As Interim CAO, Mr. Casey, already addressed that this is pertaining to Talk of the Town. The annual agreement between the town of Vegreville and Country 106 for the weekly airing of the Talk of the Town segment expired on January 10th, 2022. The background for new counselors who may not be aware is that Talk of the Town airs each Monday on Country 106 and features discussion focusing on pertinent information for residents of the town of Vegreville, delivered in a conversational format between the radio host and members of council / representatives from various town departments. The segment most often pre-recorded and typically done on the Thursday prior to the Monday broadcast. Moving forward, a few things to keep in mind. Country 106, should the town elect to continue with this endeavor, has requested that we limit over the phone interviews to one guest only and in-person interviews to 2 guests. Country 106 has also requested, to the best of our abilities, that a content schedule be provided. The financial implications, the price will remain the same. I believe it's been the same for the last 2 years. This would be going on 3 at $75 per week for the segment. And the objectives of this memorandum are to gauge council's interest in remaining actively involved in a weekly feature content, and then dependent on the council's interest to try to come up with a content schedule for the next 7 weeks. That would include the January 24th, so airing next Monday and recording this Thursday through to March 7th, but we would omit February 21st due to the Family Day stat holiday. So I guess the first question I have for council is, do you want to remain actively involved, meaning every week a different counselor speaking on a different issue? And if so, would we like to potentially explore putting together a content schedule now, or is this something you would like to discuss at a later date, keeping in mind we do have limited window? And I guess, is this something that I should probably mention that it has been budgeted for? So if you guys don't want to proceed in this format, then you can certainly let me know as well.
Can I ask you a question, Jameson?
Sure.
Has it been a bit of a struggle to try to schedule a topic for every week of the month lately, or what are you feeling?
No, I think sometimes the struggle comes in where we've got all of this content that's been pre-scheduled, in a sense where we've got 7 weeks of this week, this counselor is going to talk about this issue, and then the next week, and then something pertinent comes up, for instance, snow removal, or snow removal from either the roads or snow removal from, let's say, sidewalks. And what we sort of run into is, now we've got to bump this for that, or can we fit this in with that? So coming up with a long-term schedule, and Country 106 does say, to the best of our abilities, that's where the trick is. The power of radio, as far as I'm concerned, is its immediacy, and every week there is certainly something to discuss, but having a long-term forecast in terms of knowing exactly what we should be talking about can sometimes be detrimental, because the elements change so rapidly. And again, we've got the immediacy of a radio station in town, and I think that we could use it a little bit better on a week-to-week basis.
Okay, thank you for that. Any comments? Any directions? Okay, we'll start with Councillor Warwa.
So when we first started this initiative, I wasn't 100% sure how I would feel about it. But one thing I can tell you is I've had a fair amount of feedback. And what they said is, because there's a rotation and it's not always the same person or group on, the people who said when they're hearing it on the radio, it's catching their attention. So it's different than if we just had, the same person going on every week and giving an update. So I had someone say, "Oh, I heard you on the radio, so I stopped and listened to it," or I missed what you said, so I went online and checked out the clip later. So I think people are hearing it. So I'd like to see us continue on.
Councillor Bullock, you're next.
I think that community engagement is good, and it's good for the community to hear our actual voices and who we are, and just keep us out there so they know who they're talking to or what they're talking about, and what we're putting forward would be good, I'd say, to keep going ahead with this. I've heard on the radio a number of times myself before, and I feel that's a good avenue to get some information out to the public.
Councillor Rudick.
Well, I think the opportunity to be able to engage with the public is something that several councils ago we thought was important, and we have tried different methods. The municipal scoop is still a valuable way to be able to have a little snippet that we can send in the water bills out to residents, but the reach that the radio station has is just simply far larger for a minimal amount of money. It's not inconsequential, but for that investment, supporting a local content-driven radio station is important, and it allows us to reach a wide audience. So I do think that the ability to be able to be flexible with who's talking on that week is important, and I would defer to Jameson to be able to provide some guidance there. I know in the past, the municipal scoop used to keep sort of a running list of what had been written or potential upcoming topics, and I know that's always a challenge for us here when we are trying to say, show up on this date for that particular topic, but it might help if there was a little bit of a guided list to be able to pull from if there isn't something that's immediately pressing. So I think we can figure out the content part, but I do think that the participation is important for two reasons: engagement and supporting the local content.
Okay. Councillor Curtis.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't been part of it before, but I definitely would have no issues getting on there and talking about what's important to the town, and just echoing what the other councillors have said. Very important for engagement. And yeah, hit me up with a topic. I'm ready to go.
Okay. Councillor Lemke, staying or want to keep going?
It's a great opportunity for us to engage the residents with what's going on in the community. It's also a great opportunity for council to bring in a subject matter expert to talk about something that is pertinent. Tourism is a prime example, or the library operations, where we can bring in the managers or the coordinators, talk about what their boots on the ground and what they're doing with things. So I see there's going to be some changes with the amount of people that can speak. So it's up to you, Jameson. Make her happen, buddy.
Councillor Barry, I feel that you think we should keep going with this program as well?
Yes, I do. I think that it's a good program. I think it's very worthwhile to get information out to the public. I think that I like the idea of Councillor Rudick, where we need to have some set topics kind of lined up and ready to roll, so that when I know I've the odd time been caught in between and I'm saying, help me, what's the topic that's really most pertinent right now? And somebody usually comes up with a topic for us. But if we had some of those in the can, in a sense, that we could pick up on and run on certain dates and et cetera, I think it would be a great help.
Okay, well, Jameson, looks like we're going to keep moving forward with this. I know lots of times it's nice to bring issues from different boards and committees that you sit on. And of course, you know, the different departments of the town get to, you know, bring information to the residents. And I just think it's good that we get to reach out in that type of a medium. And it can change. I mean, the day before something comes up in town before the taping, we can just move it in there. So when do you want to make the schedule?
Well, with council's blessing, then perhaps what I'll do is I'll try to formulate some sort of a game plan with the radio station and to try to discuss with them and come up with some potential, you know, subject matter points as well. If council has anything that they feel, you know, worthy of discussion in this format, I'd ask that they pass it along, and I can do my best to put together a schedule. Now, the radio station is well aware that, you know, my thoughts, and I believe council's thoughts on this is that, you know, the power of radio is the immediacy. So I don't want to be able to provide a too detailed schedule moving forward, because I want the flexibility that if something comes up that we need to talk about, that we have this avenue to do it. So over the next few days, I'll continue some conversations with the radio station, and we'll all be in touch in terms of putting together some content. How does that sound?
Okay, thank you very much, Paul.
I beg your pardon. I believe Councillor Warwa had a point. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sorry about that.
Yeah, I was just wondering, Jameson, the next one airs on the 24th. Is that correct? That'd be the first one?
That is correct. So we are recording on Thursday. Do you have an idea?
Well, I just thought that maybe because a lot of our businesses, Canada Summer Jobs, I know it's not specifically town, but it is open to all, community organizations type things and private businesses. Canada Summer Jobs deadline is coming up, but it's on the 25th. So I think that one might be a little tight.
She's tight.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Mr. Bullock.
Quick little idea for you, Jameson, Family Literacy Day, Saturday, January 29th coming up.
Oh, perfect. Okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate the feedback. And like I said, we'll all be in touch here in the coming days to ensure that we can continue forging ahead with this information in this medium. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you. So next up, we got some letters here, a couple from Crow's Nest Pass, directed to Dr. Scott McLeod. Dear Dr. McLeod, the municipality of Crow's Nest Pass Council fully supports the request by the city of Cold Lake to have the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta consider streamlining the assessment process for physicians from outside of Canada, but wish to extend this consideration to be given to facilitate interrogation of doctors in all communities in Alberta currently facing physician shortages. Our current health crisis has clearly demonstrated the need for additional doctors to support and enhance caregivers that are overworked, stretched to capacity, when there are many migrant physicians sitting on the sidelines, forced to work in unemployed positions to make ends meet, underemployed, sorry. We recognize that this is a great responsibility to ensure that foreign educated doctors are qualified to Canadian standards, but it appears that the current process is too cumbersome and that as a country, we are losing out on a virtually untapped pool of skilled medical professionals. We thank you for your kind consideration and hope that we can all work together to find a solution to this problem, or at very least to make improvements to current accreditation process by removing the significant barriers to becoming certified in our province. Sincerely, Mayor Blair Painter. So we received a letter before from the city of Cold Lake. We've discussed this. Has anybody changed their thoughts on this? Does anybody want to jump in here and maybe ask the College of or the College of Physicians and Surgeons to reconsider this whole process when it comes to accreditation, the first part where they have to work outside of our community? Okay. And I guess we'll just leave it the way we left the last one. Okay, thank you. Next one is from the municipality of Crow's Nest Pass. The municipality of Crow's Nest Pass Council respectfully requests that the College and Association of Registered Nurses of Alberta considering fast tracking immigrant nurses to qualify to work in Alberta in all communities currently facing nursing shortages. Our current health crisis has clearly demonstrated the need for additional nurses to support and enhance our current caregivers that are overworked and stretched to capacity, when there are many immigrant nurses sitting on the sidelines, forced to work in underemployed positions to make ends meet. We recognize that it is a great responsibility to ensure that foreign educated nurses are qualified to Canadian standards, but it appears that the current process is too cumbersome and that as a country, we are losing out on this virtually untapped pool of skilled medical professionals. We thank you for your kind consideration and hope that we can all work together to find a solution to this problem, or at the very least, make improvements to the current accreditation process. Again, Mayor Blair Painter. Anybody thoughts on the nursing shortages? Councilor Rudick.
So I'm not opposed to either of the letters that the mayor has written. I do think it's important that we find a way to be able to accommodate foreign educated medical professionals, because there are a lot of situations where they are indeed underemployed and they would be very appreciated and useful particularly in rural communities. I just wanted to point out that the new director for Karna is the former hospital director, Kim Weinkoff, who's from Vegreville. And one of her focuses when she was in her former role was encouraging and supporting rural opportunities. And she's well aware, as a longtime Vegreville resident and advocate for rural health provision, of the need for trying to address these education gaps. And so it was definitely something that she was focused on in her former position, and one that I know that she's carrying forward to her current position, trying to figure out a way to be able to encourage and support rural health provision that both nursing and doctors provide. So just as a point of support, I do think that the letters highlight a concern that all of us face in rural communities. I'm not sure that the process can necessarily be changed or that it necessarily should be changed. However, it's good to know that we do have the ability to be able to advocate to both of those bodies if we do need to. And I do know that Kim is aware of our concerns here in Vegreville quite recently, having just left here.
Any other comments? Yeah, I don't know how we can have too much of an impact on these organizations, but I know that the doctors being 3 months out of the community to get their first part of their accreditation, I don't really see that as the biggest problem, to tell you the truth. I just feel that it would be too biased for the same hospital, the same staff and everything, everybody trying to bring them here so they could get some time off. I just feel that's not the right way to do it to start. I think the way that the college does it now is fair. So, but again, Councillor Curtis.
I'd have to agree. Looking at it, excuse me, that doctor or nurse is still going somewhere and still supporting a hospital in Alberta in some regard, right? So they're helping fill a hole, maybe just for 3 months, but they're also helping somewhere else. So it's not like they were off doing training and hidden from the public. They're in there getting their hands dirty and doing their work to get accredited. So I still feel that they're supporting, and a hospital somewhere in Alberta is benefiting from it either way.
I'm not sure really what the process is for nurses that come from another country, come in here, like they're not allowed to work even though they have an education. They have to go through again another process. Councillor Rudick, maybe you can enlighten us what you know.
Yeah, I'm not going to say enlighten. I can give us a little bit of a touch of the surface because it is very complicated. You can be a fully accredited nurse operating in a different system, but if the education isn't recognized in Canada and in the province of operation, and it's irrelevant. So even something as simple as Canadian nurses that are educated in BC, for example, cannot work in Alberta unless they pass their accreditation exam in the province where they're working. So there are several concerns there. Again, it's multifaceted, so it would need to be a recognition of post-secondary institutions of other countries, and some are easier than others. And part of that is a historical relationship with those countries that they can verify that they're factually accurate, because there have been times when perhaps the documentation hasn't been accurate, and verifying that is always a process with immigration, actually, Department of Immigration federally. So they do have some particular institutions or countries that they are not familiar with or supportive of, whereas others are a little bit easier and more similar to Alberta standards. So it is not straightforward. And the challenges that physicians face are very similar to the ones that nurses face. And in many operational situations, nurses are more important in rural settings as our nurse practitioners rather than physicians.
But hopefully there would be some tests they would have to pass. I mean, at some level. I mean, is it so cumbersome now, or that is a big problem? A lot of them are saying that they don't even want to try. Sorry, Councillor Berry, it's expensive and it is cumbersome. And to be honest, there are many that even if they did do it, they may not be certifiable or practice. They may not be able to practice to their scope when they come here. Councillor Berry, you had some input?
I was just going to add that part of and I believe the college has to do this and have the assessments done in another community. And I think that it's a good two-way street. I mean, we also get the doctors and the nurses to be qualified to Alberta standards, but they also get a view of how the system works in the province as well. I think as a discussion we were having yesterday, one of the things that is a bit of a roadblock is finding another hospital location where the assessment can be done. So it's not just, the assessment isn't just being done any place. The facility that they want for the assessment, they also have to be in a position to be able to do the assessment. So I think that that's an area that could maybe be smoothed up a little bit to get the roadblock off, where more facilities are doing more assessments and making it easier for these professionals to get qualified and then move to the community that they desire to be in, or the community that is waiting for them to get there. So there's some smoothing out in the system, but I don't think the process from the College of Physicians is the right location to be saying you're doing it wrong. So just have to smooth the whole process out a little bit and make it easier for these professionals to get accredited in Alberta.
Well, then let's figure it out. If we're going to lend our voice to a cause, I mean, I don't feel that them doing this for the first part of their the doctors I'm talking about outside the community to start, but let's figure out what the problem is. If it makes it so cumbersome, the red tape, and if you're in a position to put something together for us, then maybe we'll write a letter saying maybe it's hospitals that need to work with each other and communities and stuff. I mean, whatever the process is holding the process up, well, I mean, we could advocate for that. Okay, I'll leave that with you. Oh,
Well, if I can jump in on Councillor Warwick for just a
Yeah,
second to
no
answer
worries.
that. We're going through the process right now of looking for a physician to get his assessment done, and they have to get the location determined. So I think that we will learn in the process right now one more time, and maybe we'll be able to, through some of our committees, bring something back that a suggestion as to how can we get this moved out.
Sure. That if you're in the process right now, we'll find out what's going on. Councillor Warwa.
So the only point I wanted to add is just because I've worked the immigration side of it, so we see a lot of the cases come through on the immigration side. And I think one of the concerns or confusions a little bit in the way they have some of the wordage is they're kind of asking sort of for some of it that they can't actually do. So on the doctor's side of it, I'm not really in favor of us writing to change that process. On the nurses side of it, how they have it written is letter support for fast tracking immigration nurses. I guess what I would maybe like to see us do is do a letter support in the realm of what we'd be asking of the College of Physicians and Nurses would be, or sorry, Association of Registered Nurses would be for them to ask them to prioritize the streamlining of the immigration system for accreditation on nurses. And the reason I'd say it that way is because what we're just asking them to do is prioritize that, figure out a way to streamline it. We're not really going to ask them to change the system necessarily. Maybe it is too cumbersome in some ways, but there are certain accreditations that they need. But I think it's about us as a council saying we see it as a problem. We'd like you to prioritize the streamlining of it. Because they, and just to be fair to them, it's not just a problem there for immigration. It also is one that happens within education as well. We have worked several times with people who actually are professor level of teachers in other countries and can't get even a certification here to do basic things within schools. So they won't even recognize it as part of their permanent residency applications. They won't even recognize that work ability. So I guess that's all I would say on there is if we are looking at the nurses one, maybe it would just be writing a letter of support for them to prioritize streamlining of the process for nurses.
The part that I don't really get is if the College and Association of Registered Nurses of Alberta, they're really needing nurses right now, and they put the process together. You think that they would be the ones that would want to streamline it if they're hurting as They need to employ more nurses. They're the one in charge of their own process. So I just
To
don't
some
understand.
degree, that's the problem that comes in. They set the process, but if the process, say, requires form document 1, 2, and 3, past that, it becomes the country it's coming from sometimes that can actually stop it. So sometimes it's something that it's there. Like I know, for example, South Africa, sometimes from Nambia particularly, and a few of those areas, it's almost impossible to get the document. So I think that sometimes it might be their process, but it might be something that can't even prevent. It's kind of two-sided. It's not really one. It's got two parts.
So there's more hurdles than just what the association puts together. So the government of Canada is in on this as well. Oh yeah, that could be a problem. See where we're going. Okay, well, we'll start with the doctors and Councillor Barry. We'll see how this process works, trying to find another facility for the doctors to take his first part of his assessment, and maybe we can lend our voice to that, and maybe we can speed that part of the process up. Okay, next up, we got or anybody else have any more comments on that? Okay. The next, we got a letter from Tofield, the town of Tofield, and it's to Premier Jason Kenney. And basically what they're saying is they're not happy. They feel like the rural Albertans have been treated like second-class citizens when it comes to vaccinations of our children. That we have to drive between 50 to 70 kilometers, some people in some towns to receive the vaccine when most rural communities have a drugstore. So can someone give us an update where we're at in this town, Phil? Are we getting children vaccinated here at our drugstores or at our medical facilities?
Thank you, Worship. For what I know, youth here are not being vaccinated by pharmacists yet. I understand it's in the process, but it's being done at medical centers currently for the youth. I'm not exactly sure why. No one has actually given me a real answer. So we do have a large supply of vaccines available for that, but yeah, as from what I understand is that pharmacists are not allowed to administer them to youth at this point.
Rudick.
Thank you for following up the information from the Mayor of Tofield. So the community health meetings that are held quarterly with a variety of different players. I think Councillor Barry was there last time. And we've talked with Yellowhead East Health Advisory Council about the availability of vaccines for youth based on the phone calls that I've received from parents in Vegreville that are quite concerned about the inavailability. Particularly since a lot of the public health nurses from Vegreville are being taken to other communities to provide the nursing support to administer vaccines has been a challenge. So the answer that I received back is availability for youth vaccines, and I'm not sure of the exact reason, either direct or row, but in general, they cannot be offered in the school setting in this circumstance, because that was a question that parents had asked me and I had posed. If other vaccinations are currently being offered in the school setting, why isn't this one? And it's because you can be under 18. I think the age of consent is 16, and the issue was too charged and parents were too upset. And so the provincial government left it up to school boards, and school boards were not interested in including that in their mandate because that was an option, and school boards decided that was too much of a hot button issue. And so the booking locally, they had a local clinic last week, and then a pediatric clinic is available January 26th, February 3rd, 8th, and 21st. And all booking options are available online. The same way that you can access COVID clinics, you can also book your kids in. The challenge with that rollout now is that we can see right now that the predominance of children getting infected in school is quite high. And that makes it additionally challenging when parents are potentially at the maximum number of sick days or time that they're able to take off. So it's not a perfect situation. And I would agree with the Mayor of Tofield that rural communities have really gotten short shrift, and there's not really good reason for it, particularly when they've offered vaccination clinics in communities where some parents refuse to go to.
Okay, so if I understand this right, the only persons that are allowed to give the vaccination are registered nurses to start with?
I believe that is the way that youth vaccinations are delivered in Alberta.
And we've had the clinic here twice already?
I don't know about twice. There has been one last week. So it didn't say, the email that I received did not say specifically the number of patients. Sorry, I'll just rip through this email quickly. Additional pediatric immunization outreach is planned in Vegreville, January 26th, February 3rd, 8th, and 21st. There was a PEDS clinic held last week as well. And it doesn't delineate whether or not that was just regular routine baby immunizations, toddlers getting ready. It doesn't delineate that because the statistics weren't available at that time, but we could afterwards find out.
Okay, well, so I wonder how the community is receiving this. I mean, has anybody personally heard of people that are upset that they can't get their children vaccinated in town? I mean, I've not heard a lot of the conversation about this, but I'm not sure as anybody else. I got Councilor Riddick here saying that there is parents that are upset.
Yeah, I've had, and I guess the challenge here is that it's January 18th when we're having this conversation. The phone calls that I had from parents were as soon as kids were available to get vaccinated, they wanted to get their kids. So, I mean, that's 8 weeks ago. So that's before Christmas. So we're kind of late to the draw and a second shot now is great if people can receive it locally. It's just a different scenario with children. Youth vaccination is different and adults can still receive their vaccines in a pharmacy setting, but at this time, youth are not able to, and it is not, it's not going to happen in schools. That's unlikely that the schools are going to take that fight on.
Okay. Well, there looks like there's going to be the rest of the school year. Do we want to advocate for having at least one location in town where we can have the children get their vaccine? I mean, right now, the way that looks like the province is setting up once a week, but not everybody can be once a week, with the schedules. So, Councilor Warwa.
I'm just wondering if somebody could answer this. So right now, for people to get the vaccination in town, is there anywhere that's alerting it, or they would only find it out when they go on the online system and then it would bring them to Vegreville? Because I know before this, I had a couple people contact me and they were driving to other communities. So I'm just wondering if there's any mechanism that's telling our residents.
No, the short answer, sorry, I'm jumping in there, Your Worship, but I think that has been my issue the last two meetings that we've had with our area rep for the Health Advisory Council is that there is no, and I understand that everybody's strapped trying to be able to push out this information, and that's not traditionally a strong suit for governments to be able to provide information quickly in this fashion. But it's not being advertised, and it's no different than the testing clinic. I mean, there were people that were looking for the testing unit and it was already gone. And then it was back again and they didn't realize that. So it's a bit of a challenge to let people know that. So I don't think it hurts for us to be able to raise the issue again. I'm sending the email now that I received to the group here. So you can be able to take a look at it. And when I do speak with the folks with Yellowhead East, I will raise that issue again because the parents that called me before Christmas were really frustrated.
Okay, well then Monday's meeting, that'll come up. If we're, as a council, are we going to put some a letter together and we're going to bring this up with Alberta Health and the province that we'd like to see, exactly what other citizens of this province in large urban areas take for granted. At least one place in town that we can have set up for youth. So we'll bring that up on Monday. Councilor Barry.
I think we should discuss this a little further. I think it's been rolled out very poorly. And I think that I realize that there's people sitting on both sides of the fence. There's those that want the vaccine, those that don't. But the aspect is if a parent wants to have their child vaccinated, they shouldn't have to drive to another community or try and find out when they can take off time to match up somebody's schedule. it really is unfortunate that they're making it that difficult for parents who wish to have their children vaccinated. And it's kind of, I think I go back to when I was a youth, it was not uncommon for everybody to be lined up in the gymnasium getting their polio or their smallpox shots. And yet here we are with the pandemic going on, and they haven't even thought it out as to how they're going to roll out these vaccines. It's not right.
Okay, well, at least between now and Monday, when we'll have this, we'll have a vote of what we want to do moving forward. But at least maybe we can support and advertise when these clinics are and where on our website and stuff. We just get some information out. I don't know. I mean, you're right about Alberta Health. They are slow to the information side of what they're doing. So let's do that, and we'll have this on Monday, back on Monday's meeting, and we'll decide if we're going to go ahead and try to advocate with the province to have something in our community. So, okay, thank you. Okay, next up, we're going to go round table. We're going to find out what everybody's been up to. Councillor Lemko, what have you been hearing?
Not a lot. The routes for priority routes for the town has been coming up about which ones are first, which ones are second, and some of the streets that are. I'll give you an example. 58th Street is a major route from the east end to Highway 857 by the fire hall, and that one is a few people talk to me about it, being that I live close by, but that's a concern. And that's a few people have mentioned that. So maybe something to look at. And I know we did in the past, and that's not a knock on the route system the way it is now, but and I did like to see the comments we got from some residents who newly moved to town about the snow removal in their streets, and they encourage residents to live in Edmonton to see what it's really like. And it's nice to hear some positives on that. One item I'd like to bring up is that our tourism board meeting yesterday is we're going to be bringing forth the current bylaw and ask for some revisions to it, as the bylaw we have now was one that was put into place when the separation of the Economic Development and Tourism Board came in, and the bylaw was put into place. And there's some directorship or board members on there that are similar to that what the Economic Development was, and we might be missing out on some places. So we're going to bring forward some changes to that bylaw coming up soon to reflect more of what tourism is doing right now. Other than that, it's been a great day yesterday out in the streets, with the rain and then the snow. I shoveled my sidewalk probably 4 times, and this morning I found out that I didn't need to.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Councillor Bullock, what have you been hearing?
Actually, not a heck of a lot. I've heard a few good things about snow removal, which was great, and that it is a lot better than what's happening in Edmonton right now. So we're fortunate that way. I could agree with Gerald there, what he said about 58th Avenue from 50th Street down towards where Bucky's Welding is. That way it's kind of troughed out and it's a little bit slick. Maybe that's something we'd look at for what Gerald said about priority routes. Maybe that could be looked at. I don't know. We could. Family Literacy Day on Saturday, January 29th. We were talking about at Cal's, at a Cal's meeting on that one. So, and that's going to be at the Alliance Splash Park just behind the library there. Just everybody know to maybe take that in if they can. That's about all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Warwick. Councillor Warwa.
Okay, I just had a couple. Snow removal, of course, was one of them. Priority routes was actually what's brought to me. But the other snow removal thing that was brought to me was about whether the town would consider. I realize it's quite a huge job and it would be a very big change to the setup, but talking about that some communities do the snow removal through their main street routes. And the reason it was brought to me was on the sidewalks, and what was brought to me was that when the town does it and removes it to the side, then that way they're also picking it up from what would be the parking area. So of course, that was just because of course it's difficult. Our businesses are pushing the snow. They don't have somewhere else to chuck it to, so it goes onto the road, and then it was quite difficult for parking and for stepping out on the parking. So that was one of the issues that was brought to me a little bit. Also, there was discussion through the FCSS. I'm going to let Councillor Curtis lead that. Him and I spoke, but also he spoke directly with Julie, so we can talk Family Day with Councillor Curtis's. The only other one I was just going to say is I have my first VTSS meeting since I've been appointed to the community. That will be this week, so I'm looking forward to that. I think there's a lot that needs to be, worked on in advocacy there. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Councillor Curtis.
I don't know if you want me just to go at the end, as we're going to have a pretty big discussion regarding that breakfast.
Okay. Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, Councillor Rudick can jump in on this one as well. A discussion yesterday that turned out to be very interesting with a local realtor that we may all know, stating that sales have been reasonably good over the past. They're a little bit slower right now, but they'll be picking up again. But one of the things that was emphasized and what clinches a lot of deals is the fact that we're total fiber. And with changes, COVID being part of it, but I mean, just a lot of changes going on. Working from home or being able to contact on the internet is extremely important. So the point is that we need to keep as a community, as a town, pushing that we are full fiber, that in all of our communications that we need to really emphasize that, because it is a drawing factor. And a number of home sales over the past few months, finding out that it's full fiber was the clinching deal. So I think that that's was a very good point that was being brought up to us. And it's good to see that that there's some good sales going on, that the market is picking up in this community. So that's really all I have. Snow removal. I just think that the weather has been a real catastrophe for our staff to even try and handle. So I say kudos to them for their efforts.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Riddick.
Hot on the heels of what Councillor Berry said, we did have a site visit for a new doctor that's coming to the community. And there was a bit of a change in how we do things in terms of being able to provide information has changed. And we got to experience firsthand for a very short period of time what healthcare professionals are having to do all the time with a face shield and a mask for a short period of time was hard to hear and hot. Never mind, we weren't providing care in any way, shape, or form. We were just talking. So new firsthand appreciation for those health professionals that are doing that day in and day out, as well as other preventative measures. But in that conversation, that's where some of the houses that have been sold recently, and it has slowed down the last month. Usually it slows down before Christmas, but it didn't. A lot of those sales have actually been done virtually. There have been people that are buying outside of the province and doing their tours virtually. So they're not actually seeing the properties and buying because the price is right and the fiber is a necessity for them. So I was just a good reminder for us to keep top of mind what people are looking for in a community. And a point of appreciation to our communications and economic development that some of the information that we used for the site visit was readily available on the website. So that is a great improvement. So thank you for making sure that that's available so we can print that off. And then of course there is always the snow removal, both positive and a few other considerations, but just want to remind people that if there is an immediate concern that Of course, there's a process to be able to give that information to us, but if there is something that's happened the day of, that there is an ability to be able to call Public Works so that you can in real time be able to answer those questions, because it's great to be able to share them with us, but then when we share that through the process, sometimes it takes longer and the answer could be quite quickly resolved. So again, just encouraging our public to contact the right people is always great. And we're a great resource as counselors, but probably sometimes the people that actually do the work, our best answers are found with those people.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Curtis, let's get into Family Day.
I'll just speak on a couple things first, just with our recent tourism advisory board meeting. Our good friends at Young Farts RV Parts are again mentioned that they're expanding, which is really good to see. But their haunted hike is going to have to stop being at their location. So just throwing that out there again, if there's any groups or anybody interested, it is up for purchase. So throwing that out there, you can talk with them. They're also looking for a place to store it currently, or they may put it up for bid. They may go outside of the town. It's really something nice to bring some people into town as well. And then this year, we're looking at a Ukrainian 130-year heritage event that's going to be a regional partnership, Andrew, Lamont, Mundare, et cetera. So just throwing that out there, I'm sure Councillor Barry knows, but it could be a very good introduction to our new Veg Regional Historic Society to take part in that. So I wanted to bring that up. With that said, we'll go into the Family Day, the breakfast or possible brunch, lunch. We might be looking to host as we usually do. I can get in. So the FCSS has sent us some options that they have. I'm wondering if we want to get into the options first, or do we want to talk about if we're planning on actually participating, with the COVID restrictions and the rise in cases. How do we feel as council about that first, or we can get into the options? I can read them off. I'm sure you've all have seen it and read it, but just wondering some direction on what you guys would like to do first.
Well, I think we should start. Is there anybody here that wants to go the old tried and true method where we open up the social center and bring all the people in and try to feed them? I don't see anybody. Councillor Bullock, you're in favor of that?
Well, the way I look at it, if you're going to do it, if you're going to be in favor of doing that, one way of going about it would be, spacing out the tables and only putting so many chairs at each table to accommodate social distancing. That's probably the only way I could see if you want to go in there and actually do it and have people coming through. And then you're going to have people at the door, people just pretty much before you could say where they're going to pick up the food. And then maybe someone telling them when they're picking up the cutlery that, space out at the table. So just something to think of. So I'm okay with it. If you want to go do that, I could support that.
Hey, Councillor Warwick.
For me, my issue becomes a little bit of, I need to know what else we're doing. I would go ahead, but I'm also somebody who, in fairness, would do most things in person. So for me, though, if there's even an opportunity that we're still going to be doing this virtually in February, that's where my issue comes in, because I understand we can space the people out. But the problem to me is I can't stand and cook next to somebody if I can't be in a meeting with you. It just doesn't sit well with me that way. If I'm saying that I'm not comfortable sitting with plexiglass and fully vaccinated, every one of us inside council chambers, I can't do the opposite for Family Day.
Okay. So my problem would be, typically we would have the bouncing castle in one end, we would have the band going and playing, and a family event inside. So basically, if we were to hold it inside and not knowing what the numbers are, and I would love to get back to normal as we could, as quickly as we could. But I just don't know where we're going to be on that date. And to commit one way now and then try to change at the very end, I just don't think it's worth it. And again, we're doing these things to set the example, is what we're asking other people to do as well. So I feel that I don't think we could have it inside and be successful it would be like, who's gonna be bouncer, really? Who's gonna be the one pulling everybody apart? Who's gonna be one standing telling, you're from this household, you're from that household, you have to set apart? Because there is rules to how you eat. I mean, it's not like you're in another facility where you're standing watching a hockey game, but if you're having a meal, and does everybody want to be policing that? I mean, I just don't feel would be a very good role for council. So. Go ahead, Councilor Curtis.
And I would be on that side as I don't, it's a big headache. It's a lot to undertake for being inside. The other option is a pickup at the door. So people roll up and whatever we offer for food, whether it's the breakfast, the bacon and eggs, they did mention possible chili and a bun type of thing to take it on the go. You could roll up to the front like it's a drive-through. This is what we want, and then you bring it out to them. The only thing that goes back to is still Councillor Wara was concern of, we're saying right now we don't want to meet in person because of the active rising cases, and yet we're going to be standing there with each other cooking. So it's kind of plays against each other in that respect.
Councilor Barry.
I have mixed feelings on it as well. I don't think there'd be anything else scheduled. I believe Councillor Curtis made mention of this in a communication to us. There wouldn't be anything else planned at the social center. So there wouldn't be any band, there wouldn't be any bouncy castle. So we could open it up all the way and spread the tables out further. But it's probably still one of the easier ways. We just have to have individual packages for condiments and et cetera, and serve it. Councillor Warwa is actually right. I mean, how would it look? We've been there before. I mean, like, this is what actually probably number 6 if we were there. We've probably been in there at least 5 times, the vast majority of us. And when you're at those stoves, you're bouncing around between 2 different people and turning around trying, and people are going back and forth and they're serving. It's pretty hectic in that kitchen for 2 or 3 hours. A lot different than a council meeting. And yet here we sit looking at a screen. So I have that problem too, trying to understand. We're all double vaxxed. Some of you, because I'm not eligible for the triple yet. But even with the triple, no guarantees, is there? The options of going for serving at the door just adds a little bit of added work to it, but we're still cooking. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, what we're doing, we're still. So one of the biggest situations is we can spread the tables out. We can try and police the people to different areas, or we can have cars driving by, but still we're preparing the meal in the kitchen. And we have always started at 6 in the morning to get those stoves up and ready. And I think we all know that when we shut her down, it's like exhaustion. Where did we stop? So if we're trying to do that sort of thing, it's asking a lot right now with Omicron potentially not having made its peak yet. So I just, you know, I think that we have to make a decision as council. How are we representing ourselves into the public? And I think the answer to me is we have to say no one more year and hope the heck that we can get some of this over with so that we can get back to having good fun time, come and have a breakfast. So I don't know whether we can pull it off.
Okay, Councillor Curtis.
I just want to throw one thing in there. I did miss is that FCSS is putting on the drone soccer in the social center. Tentative time right now is 11 to 4 is what I missed. So that would be obviously independent of the breakfast. I'm just saying that they are planning to have a event there for their drone soccer. But again, that's them. So
one thing about drone soccer, not everybody's putting it in their mouth. Not everybody's up there. I mean, individual, everything we touch has to be wiped down. You know, I just don't, well, my opinion, well, it won't matter right now. So Councillor Lemko, we got Councillor Barry and Councillor War are saying that we can't have in-person meetings, and we just shouldn't be doing this neither. So what's your opinion?
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of the comments already made. I think by providing a breakfast to go or a lunch to go, yeah, we could possibly do it all masked up and do all that. But at the end of the day, it just isn't like a family type of thing. You're putting a bunch of pancakes in a styrofoam box and handing it out through the window. I say we bite the bullet, and then maybe when this thing settles down in the spring or a little later in summer, we do a hot dog and hamburger thing where people come and we can actually do it with some sincerity in it, instead of just doing it because it's something we've done in the past. I think we need to focus on what that community is all about versus a styrofoam box. It just misses the mark for me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Rudick, we haven't heard from you.
Well, I always think that one of the best ways to be able to interact with our public or with our friends too and family is breaking bread together. And so this is a challenge because it isn't quite that experience where we're actually getting to see different parts of the community and different people in the community that we need to connect with. The one thing I would say is different is us conducting our meetings virtually is setting an example, and it is different than cooking. I think it's more a case of bringing in the public, because there have been times where we've had 500 or 600 people come through the building to eat. And that's where the part becomes cumbersome, because I don't think it will be good for us. And I don't think it'll be good for the public for us to be policing individually. I mean, we've seen some of the comments that we receive from the public that are not understanding that a lot of things that we're having to abide by are provincially determined, not by the town. And I don't think it highlights our strengths, and our strengths as a community aren't going to be highlighted in this if we were to go ahead. The one option I wondered about is, and something that's been helpful for our family, is maybe a hybrid. So there are a lot of meal delivery services that provide all of the ingredients, and then it becomes an experience for the family to be able to cook together. Far be it from me to suggest something to the FCSS board that maybe they are not set up to, but there are other meal delivery services that provide the ingredients and then the recipe, and then they're able to do the process of cooking together. And I know that CALS has a very successful program. They call it Messy Kitchen. And there's also been a feature that's been done on CBC Radio. One of their food commentators has done a Zoom cooking class with kids on Saturdays the last 4 weeks. It's been incredibly popular. Hundreds of kids have Zoomed in to be able to learn how to cook various items. So it doesn't need to go that big, but there is an opportunity for kids that are very familiar with having this format of learning. Maybe there's a third option, but in my opinion, I don't know that would be serving our best assets doing it in person at this time.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barry.
I have a question. What Councillor Rudick was just alluding to. Wasn't there something set up last year at the food bank for people to come driving by and drop off food items? And wasn't there a gift bag or something that was being handed out? I was just trying to recall, because that's sort of, it's almost impossible for us to package up breakfasts to go, you cook yourself. But it is, kind of, I thought they did something last year where people could still help out the food bank, because this is partly what our council was doing, was providing a breakfast for change, Hatunia Looney, to our citizens, and then the money went to the food bank.
There was a gift.
Can we still help out the food bank somehow?
There was a small gift bag with some things in it last year that was given out. And if you drove by the food bank and dropped something off, you received one. We didn't do it at the social center. And that was FCSS was supplying those bags. So right now, where we're at right now, Councillor Curtis, is that we're going to take another year off. by the comments in the room, and hopefully maybe by the summer, maybe we can step up on a Canada Day and maybe have an outdoor barbecue or something, and just do a little more than what we normally do. Hopefully we'll be past this by then. So.
Nope, thanks for the comments, everybody. It's a tough thing to kind of navigate, so I'll report this back to FCSS, our decision. And yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So basically, what I've been up to is we've had some interesting meetings here that our MLA has set up with us. Today we were talking with Laura Kilcrest from Alberta Innovates and Steve from Alberta Innotech, and lots of different players in the game there. We had very good conversation. We talked to another gentleman from the Heartland organization, the Alberta Heartland organization, about what they're doing there. And so we're basically touching base with a whole bunch of different organizations and stuff right now, Bob and myself, through our MLA, and we're just trying to say hi again and, you know, talk about things that are relevant in our community and making more contacts, sorry. So it's been going fairly well. I've had a few calls. I like when other people go to other communities and come back and say they have windrows in the middle of all their streets. Yeah, of course they do. I mean, so it's a lot better here. And, you know, there's not all negative. Lots of people have been very happy about, I know when they went through our street here, everybody was really happy the way the job was done. So, but I have got a complaint that's a little odd from what we've normally heard, but it is a problem that we're seeing more and more with the amount of snow and the cover in the woods that we have and in fields. A lot more deer are in town eating everything. So I've asked Phil to look in with Alberta Wildlife, and basically I think, Phil, what was the answer they gave you that what could be done?
It's mostly around education for people with their plants. They recommend that you wrap them, trees, remove, I mean, in the fall time, remove berries and apples, putting up fencing. There's a spray you can get from PV Mart, Canadian Tire, Home Hardware. It's called Doggone, and it's you can spray it on the snow surface, and when animals get it on their feet, it's very uncomfortable for them. So it's a deterrent. But this is not a problem unique to our community. In conversations with Fish and Wildlife, there are communities that are now having such deer problems that it's attracting cougars and lynx part of their community. So we've been quite fortunate that it's just deer, but it's in all four corners of the community. And he did. I am going to work with him on some education, because I found out that there are people that are leaving food out for deer, thinking that they're doing the deer a favor. So this is happening in communities. So but I think their best option would be to wrap their tree, and the deer won't be able to get at them. So
yeah, I know in our neighborhood here, never surprises me to see a pack of 7 or 8 walk around eating in my front yard, and they're pretty brazen. You can go out there and holler and walk right up to them and give them a push, and they don't seem to want to leave. I was notified that there's a community in Nova Scotia that they're actually culling them. They're encouraging people to, because the problem is that large right now. And then when we get a lot of snow in the fields and in the woods and stuff, all their food is under a lot of cover, and cedars and little trees look pretty nice to them. So
I have to say kudos to the snow removal, because it's a nice track for them to walk down.
Yeah, they come through my yard every single night. They love the aspect, and it's they've become lazy enough now that they use only my sidewalks. The snow is just too deep for them.
Okay, well, thanks for all your guys' input. Then we're going to move on to the director's highlights. We're going to start with Director Rowe.
thank you, Worship. I understand I was breaking up there. Hopefully it's a bit better. So I've met with the golf course and we've developed a plan for the trail system out there. We're working with when we get into clear a path once they get caught up with the town snow removal on our trails and sidewalks and our facilities. It's been a daunting task as it has been with all our departments with snow. We'll work with the communications department once the trails look. I was very happy this last week that I could work with Prairie Tales and help them coordinate the Betty White Challenge in the community. And I can say it's been an absolute huge success. Tallies and donations and both financial and food and other items for Thursday. Big thanks to Co-op and No Frills and Walmart, the Veg Vet Clinic for working with us on this, and of course all the community that contributed. I've also been working with the municipal enforcement and the infrastructure planning and development department on some education and enforcement of snow removal in the community. An area of concern that we're facing right now is removal of snow on private driveways onto town streets and alleyways. It's creating a hazard for both our garbage trucks and other residents trying to pass. And we'll be working on a public education plan and followed up with enforcement as we move forward, because it is against the community standards bylaw to remove snow onto a town roadway or alleyway from your property. And I've been working on a few bylaws and policies for council, and that's keeping me busy.
Okay, well, you were breaking up a little bit, but we got the gist of it. Actually, you sounded like an old TV show, Battlestar Galactica. Do you remember that show? That's what you sounded like.
Do you want my eyes to keep going this way?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Director Lefebvre, what do you got going on?
Thank you, Worship. I'm going to step out there and see how it goes. I'm going to talk about some snow removal just a little bit. Last week, Public Works, we decided to roll some overtime. We were working 10-hour days last week from Tuesday to Friday. And then we compared that to the week prior. So in those, those 4 days of an extra 2 hours with the entire crew on shifts, we were gaining about 14 blocks in those 4 days that we got done that we hadn't got done before. We did work 6.5 hours on Saturday. We wanted to get up and get 67th by Tim's Canadian Tire, some of those areas done, and actually picked up 16 blocks on Saturday combined. And that includes, the everyday stuff, the 2 funerals last week, the plug sewers that happened, the things that go on as well. So I appreciate the comments to the staff, but a job well done. They've been going a lot of days in a row, just finally had Sunday off after a long stretch, and it's making a big difference in our community. Unfortunately, this is snow we haven't seen for a long time. We are seriously at 35 centimeters since this season. That's 14 inches just to convert that. And it's a lot of snow. The big push last week was to help us get a little bit caught up. We're still going to do snow removal, but we're going to remove a couple of trucks and get some backhoes and a loader. We have to get into our back lanes. Our garbage trucks are struggling in those lanes. We can't even get down. They just can't. So you'll notice that in the rest of the week, there's going to be activities in the rear lanes as we remove snow, but we're still going to have a crew, less a couple of trucks out on the streets to continue to move snow there. It's just a lot of snow. And it's not really affecting our operation in a big way, just a little bit of a percentage maybe, but as of today, we've got a total of 5 staff in IP&D. So that's planning, development, that'd be utilities, your public works, municipal services that are off with illnesses. So we've got 3 positive COVID and 2 away ill, not positive. They're negative. So as long as those numbers stay about there, we're floating along pretty good with some of our backup and part-time staff that we have to help us out. Willing to take questions.
Well, I just wanted to bring out one thing, Dale. The windrows for the snowblower were so big in some locations. It was nice. The assistance with the little Bobcat with the nice little tilt blade on it, angle blade, and they cleaned up and they went back over most of it twice. Really did a nice job.
Yeah, we're finding that we usually do one main pass in normal winter, and then we'll do what's called the cleanup pass. And now we're doing usually 2 passes, and then the third one is the cleanup. So we're spending a lot more time in each block. So when you can get a Saturday and get those areas looked after, plus 16 blocks of snow removal, that's a good day. It makes a difference in our community. But again, there is 65 kilometers of road, and it just takes some time to get rid of it, right?
Well, I've never seen the windrow as big as it was here the other day when they did it. It was huge. It was on both sides of the snow blower. It was pouring out. So, I mean, it was a lot of snow on the down. So
Yeah.
anybody else have any comments for Dale?
I just wanted to say to keep checking out the post that Jameson puts up, because we try and send some pictures, whether it's evening or whatever. And there was a couple that were sent that truly showed the windrow was 2 feet wider on each side all the way around than the blower could even handle. So there's a lot of snow for sure. I see.
Councilor Warwick.
Just one question, Dale. Somebody mentioned to me that our bylaw was accompanying the grader by some intersections. Is that something, and I didn't see it, and they didn't give me a location. They just said that they saw that our bylaw was there as the grader was doing some snow removal, and that the bylaw was like backing up as the grader was making turns at intersections. Is that something that we do typically?
I honestly can't answer that. I am not aware of it. I know that at times in past, we would ask bylaw if they were in town, if they could go up ahead and ask vehicles to move before we get there with the grader to get them off the streets. I don't know. I'll get back to you because I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Yeah, and if I get any follow-up, I'll just ask them if they can give me a little more details, because I thought it just sent as a message, and they didn't answer me back when I asked for a little bit more. So yeah, if you find anything out, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, will do.
Councilor Rudick, you had a comment?
I had a compliment first. Love the little projected updates of where they're going to be. I've had a few people say to me, thank you very much for providing that information. I think it's been helpful. And I do know even for our neighborhood, it's been helpful for the number of cars that people park on the street. Preemptively, they're moving them because they're expecting the snow removal, which I think is better. The other thing I was going to say is maybe we can do like quick facts, a little bit of communication for residents again about the amount of snow that we've received compared to the last couple of years. I mean, memories are short, people forget things, but this is a lot of snow. And just the volume, 65 kilometers of road is a significant amount of time. And I forget, Dale, myself, how many days it takes from start to finish to do the entire town if we don't get another dump of snow in the meantime. And if you want people to call, which number they should call, because I think that would maybe alleviate some of the issues that I talked about earlier. You know, people contacting maybe too late.
Yeah, for sure. Like the one instance you had brought up was something that was missed. It was a short area in the cleanup pass that was basically missed, and had the resident. It's fine if they want to contact council. I know council is okay with that, but if they contact Public Works at 632-3439, we quite likely could have looked after it right away by running a piece of equipment back and finishing it. It was just something that got left. So we apologize for that. And we're putting all these notices out. I'm asking the operators about parked cars in the streets. It's not over. They're not moved, and we got free sailing. Bylaw went out just last week for vehicles that are obviously been out more than 72 hours or far longer. And I believe they handed out 54 notices just in our community of vehicles just sitting there. So those types of vehicles, I'm just thinking if you put it online or not, I don't know if they're going to get moved or not. But we do see in the normal residential areas that we're seeing more compliance than we were before, because people are aware that we're coming and they will take the effort to move their vehicle someplace else, but not everybody.
Yeah, well, it's Councilor Lemko, did you have a comment?
I sure did, Your Worship.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Dale, for the update. Just to remind people that of all the things that are going on, not only the snow removal that you guys are doing, but yesterday's rain in the middle of the day puts a flood by the Boston Pizza corner there, so much that you would have to go into the in the turning lane to get around. Therefore, a crew would probably have to go out and clear that amount of water, plus working on the broken pipe to the lagoon and all those other things, sanding trucks and all that, people off sick. People need to understand that the amount of work that goes on a typical day is a lot. And we just should be very proud of the staff that work for this town. I am. So kudos to your staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. And like I've heard lots of positive comments, and a lot of people are so happy they get the updates and they go check where they're going to be next. And a lot of people run home and move their stuff. I know there's still some people that don't, and they, and of course then everybody else that's doing the right thing's mad at them. And of course it is what it is, but just let them know that, the council has their back, and we know that, it's not easy what they're trying to do all the time. And, unless they had a Sunday off, I imagine their families were happy to see them. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'll pass it on to your worship.
Did you have anything else, Director LaFaith? Okay, Councillor Warwa.
I just want to comment on something that Councillor Rudick had mentioned. I do think that those updates that include the little bit of comparative information is really important. One was done the other week, and I had kind of shared a kudos for that, because to hear when people sometimes, and it kind of relates to what Councillor Lemko said, all the things that are going on, but when you take it into perspective to say we had this much precipitation a year ago, which communications had put out there, I think that it really does help people. It helps them stop and think about it. So I think those are great if we can continue to do those little bit of comparisons of this is how much we've had versus the other year, because I did get feedback on that already.
Okay, well, we all know, and let's all be, we'll get that information and pass it out to everybody. When somebody phones you, let them know. We didn't have anywhere near this much snow all of last year. Okay, thank you. Next up, Director Saskew.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have quite as exciting things as snow removal, but corporate services, we have been working on the preparation of working papers for the year-end audit. Wild and Company is scheduled to be in the office on February 22nd through the 24th. And we're hoping for March 28th financial presentation to council. So that'd be the Monday council meeting. So fingers crossed we can have March 22nd ledge meeting draft financials for you all. Canada Summer Jobs application has been submitted through the online portal. We have submitted a request for each summer student in Public Works, Parks, Administration, and Tourism. FCSS has also submitted their own application for 2 summer students. Service Canada will inform us of the status of our application starting in April of 2022. We also continue to submit monthly reports for the Canada-Alberta Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, so the ICIP. Claims to date are as follows. I have a chart, and in total, $1,163,000 of expenses to date have been submitted for the Southeast 17. And note that we are still waiting on December invoice from MPE to submit our December claim, and ineligible costs that are in that one column are covered by the town, and they include engineering prior to March 1st of 2021, administration fees, land acquisition costs, and legal fees.
Okay. What else you got?
That's what we've been working on. I don't have anything else too exciting.
Who has questions for Director Saskew? Come on, don't let her off so early, so easy. How's the snow removal at your place?
It's good. Actually, you know what? They went through a few weeks ago, so we've only had the one last snowfall on our roads, so it's been great.
Okay, next up, thank you, Megan. Next up, Paul Casey. Oh, you have a question, Paul.
I wasn't waving my hand because I was next up. I was just going to comment on the Canada Summer Jobs, that it's important that people realize that we cannot hire summer staff that will be under Canada Summer Jobs before we get approval from Canada Summer Jobs. If we hire them before that, they will not be eligible to be on Canada Summer Jobs. We had that issue once, and we will never have it again, or at least in my tenure as the CAO. Beyond that, I can't say.
Okay.
So in terms of what I've been doing, basically, I have been communicating a lot with Mr. Leggett, the new CAO, sending him information about things that are going on. I sent him information about the RCMP, the Alberta Municipalities webinar for the RCMP, and he's going to attend that tomorrow. I've also registered to attend that virtually. He is going to be moving to town this weekend, and he has requested that each one of the senior leadership group meet him one-on-one for lunch on one day next week. So I'm kicking it off on Monday, have lunch with him, and the other people will have their own days. I can't remember what their days are, but from Monday through Friday, he'll be meeting with them over lunch. And then I've sent him a bunch of documentation to try and get completed in advance of him starting, so we don't have to spend a lot of time filling out forms. So, yeah, basically that's what I've been doing, and helping Megan out where she has issues with whatever for audit or for ISIP or whatever. So,
And answering 20 questions a day from me keeps you busy.
trying to. And also dealing with issues related to what we're going to discuss in closed session.
Yeah.
So,
Well, okay. Thank you all for what you do. And there's no other business of council. We're going to go into closed session. We're going to talk about a couple of things that we just can't let everybody talk about due to interest of business and in labor, not labor, sorry, business. So I take a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Barry makes the motion. All those